Okay. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Everyone's Creative Podcast with your girl Queenie and your boy Kojo. That's right. We're back, baby. It's been a while, but ciao, life has been lifing. But we're back, by popular demand. Period. By demand, of course. Kojo, how you been, my boy?
I've been good. I've been stressed. Obviously, took some time off, focus on life, uni, and just things happening. But it feels good to be back. Definitely. I mean, we've been catching up online, also offline, even about like kind of TV shows and films we're watching. So it's kind of good to bring an important discussion to the internet about
Absolutely.
a phenomenal show. Catch up on some films we've seen this year as well, and then talk about what's kind of coming up in the future. Yeah. Yeah, no. So how you doing? How you doing? What's happening?
Yeah, I'm well. Just been working like a dog. No, I'm joking. I actually really like my job. Um,
Disclaimer.
and we don't have to use a sling, right? No, but you have to say it like that, Kojo. But yeah. Life has been interesting. Like just learning stuff, about people and about myself. Through the medium of TV and film. You feel me? Like, and that's one of the reasons why I love watching stuff, because sometimes when you see your life reflected back to you, and you're like, oh, I see what you did there. Yeah. So maybe don't do it like how that person did it, and just do it a different way. So yeah, I stay learning, you feel me? 27 and learning. Her.
I love it. We love it. We love it. Yeah, cracking in. We're going to talk about our top 5 films of the year, I believe.
Yeah.
Films we've seen, what we're kind of feeling, and then we'll dive into discussion on there. There should be timestamps below or in the description of wherever you're listening or consuming or watching this episode. But yeah, to kick it off, Queenie, talk to me about some of your favorite films this year. What you've been seeing, what's kind of caught your attention.
Yeah, so I think like this will be a good way to ease back into our little podcasting bag, seeing as we've been away for, I don't know, 7 months. So over the past 7 months, I've seen a few films. Now, the filmscape has had me by the neck, and not in a good way. Because why am I scraping the barrel for a decent film? It's insanity to me. I started off the year, I think, watching Empire of Light, and left raging at how, let me not say bad, because I love Michael Ward and I love Olivia Colman, but my God,
I remember how excited you were for this, and
I
then
was so excited to go and see it. And it was like, the beginning of the year, and I was like, yes, let me put my Odeon card to good use. What a waste. But anyway, actual top 5 now. That's like an honorable or dishonorable mention. Top 5. So number 1, these won't be in order, but this one is. Okay, so number 1, Spider-Man Across the Universe.
Spider-Verse.
Oh, you know what I'm saying? Across the Spider-Verse. Come on now. Absolute insanity.
Yeah.
My body, I was in a state of shock.
Agreed.
I was in a state of shock at how amazed I was. And you know me and sequels anyway. I love a sequel, right? If you guys don't know, if it's a sequel, I'm gonna love it. Okay. And so across the Spider-Verse, I was already expecting a lot. I never expected it to exceed what I already thought it could be. And I did like Into the Spider-Verse. That was the first movie. I liked it a lot. I liked what it did for the culture, you feel me? But Across the Spider-Verse rocked my world, and honestly is the reason why it was number 1 for this year so far. Other films I saw didn't quite hold a light up to that film, but still tried their best. Creed 3 I thought was a decent film, considering it was Michael B. Jordan's debut. I quite enjoyed it. I enjoyed it, but then also, this is in the context of 2023. Okay, the films aren't giving. Okay,
yeah, true.
So yeah, I will say though, I really wanted to see Beau is Afraid. I still haven't seen it, so maybe
Same.
maybe something will change there. So yeah, obviously I haven't seen every single film that's come out this year, but I thought Creed 3 was pretty good. I wasn't expecting a lot, to be fair, and it did exceed my expectations. I also saw Polite Society. I'm not sure how many people will know about this film, but essentially it's a British Asian movie about a girl who has like a really insane imagination, essentially, and kicks ass, essentially. Really enjoyable film. I thought it was like great representation, and yeah, if you haven't seen it, I would definitely check it out. And then this one's more of a callback to like 2022, but I'd only seen it this year, and that's Triangle of Sadness. I love the film, and I only watched it because it got like a couple of Oscar noms. And I really enjoyed it. That's a film. It's talking about class. You know, it's a allegory. You know, you feel me? Love it. I thought it was really good. And then lastly, I saw what's this one called? Worst Person in the World. Have you seen that?
Facts. Great film. Good.
Wow.
Belongs on the list. Belongs on the list.
That came out.
Adored it.
And I can't speak to how it spoke to my personal experience. You feel me? But wow. Yeah. Insane.
Good choice. Good choice.
I would definitely check it out.
Good choice.
Yeah, that's like my top 5. I know not all of them are from this year, but like I said, we're in the ghetto when it comes to films in 2023. So yeah. But what about you, Coach?
Yeah, no, similarly, same sentiments. 2023 hasn't been all that for films. I mean, there's some stuff coming up obviously in the pipeline. We're currently in the midst of Barbenheimer. I saw Barbie yesterday.
Yeah.
It was good. It was good. It was good. It was good. It was unsurprisingly good as well. I think everyone kind of knew that from the marketing, from the trailers, that the film was made with a lot of passion, a lot of passion for it, kind of going into creating this like kind of this moment. So yeah, good film. We'll talk about it in more depth another time, especially when you see it. But yeah, I enjoyed it. So I'm going to leave it off my list for the time being. I do need to think about Barbie for a little bit longer, but I need to think about that film for a little bit. So anyway, I'll talk about the films I've seen this year briefly, and then that have come out this year, and then the films that, like you, I've seen this year but didn't come out this year, but that actually are my top 5. So released this year, I'm going to just run through them. John Wick 4, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, A Good Person, and Guardians of the Galaxy 3. John Wick 4.
I still haven't seen Guardians of the Galaxy. Sorry.
Yay! Change that.
Yeah,
change that ASAP.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
Probably.
On Disney Plus now. Is it on Disney Plus now?
I don't know. It should be.
Yeah,
but I'm not too sure. But I'll start with Guardians. Actually, I would say it's definitely top 5 MCU films. Easily top 5 MCU films. It's that good. It's the best one of the current. I mean, I think now we might be in phase 6 technically, or phase 5.
Phase 5, maybe.
I think now we are in phase 5. But it's so best of phase 5. Best we've got in the last few years from Marvel, because Spider-Man. Yeah, because I mean, what was up there? Spider-Man Far From Home, or Spider-Man No Way Home. Sorry. No Way Home. Which was great at the time, and then in hindsight, you're like, well, was it really all that good? Okay. It was a nostalgia trap. It was a nostalgia trap. Anyway, we're not talking about that. That's in the past. But what I will say is Guardians of the Galaxy, like tears will be felt. It's such a good film. James Gunn smashed it out of the park. Really good film. And I was never a massive fan of the Guardians before this. So anyway, A Good Person, made by Zach Braff. I'm a Zach Braff stan, have always been since Scrubs and his other films. So he done A Good Person featuring Florence Pugh and Morgan Freeman. Yeah. Good film, kind of covering like grief. It's dealing with grief. It's dealing with grief, especially the guilt around grief, shame that can come with it, of like when you lose somebody or are at fault for losing somebody. Think like it's kind of navigating these themes through different characters' perspectives. I don't want to talk about it too much because I don't think a lot of people saw it, but I really enjoyed it. Wasn't well reviewed on Letterboxd. People are slating the film to bits.
Really? The thing is it like what were they saying? Because if it was about Florence Pugh, then I'm putting it down to misogyny.
No,
because
it's Zach
okay,
Braff. It's about Zach Braff.
okay, fine. Because people like, I don't know why, but people like to not like Florence, and I'm like, are you kidding? Like,
I've
she's
seen the
amazing.
opposite. I've seen the opposite. I think people adore Florence, especially she was the best part of Hawkeye.
Yeah. To be honest, I think anything that Florence does, she absolutely kills. Like, what was that film that came out last year? The one with Harry Styles in it. I've forgotten the film now. Don't worry, darling.
Good.
Don't
worry,
worry.
Yeah.
She ate that up. Like the story, okay. Like the writing, okay. Harry Styles, okay.
I was gonna say
Florence Pugh. Florence Pugh ate. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Please continue. So Zach Braff, that was a good person. Okay, that's definitely added to my list.
So Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, I'm not going to speak about that for too long because we both know it, like, it's an amazing film, phenomenal. And then John Wick 4, my personal favorite, not my personal favorite of the John Wick series, but the film I think is the best of the John Wick series. John Wick 2 is still my favorite, but John Wick 4, best cinematography, best directing, best action. Maybe the funniest is there's so many things I like in John Wick 4 that I'm surprised you can do that with the fourth of a franchise installment.
Yeah.
So yeah, anyway. But films I saw this year, which didn't come out in 2023, gonna run through them again. The Menu, Aftersun, Babylon.
The Menu? Hold on.
You're gonna pull me up for The Menu?
Continue.
All right, we'll get back to it. The Menu, Aftersun, Babylon. I'm gonna say that one more time. I know how you felt about that film. Actual People, and which is like a movie. No, I say movie, but I saw a movie, an indie film, so I don't think a lot of people have seen it. And then Cinema Paradiso. Finally got around to seeing that phenomenal film. Okay. Talk to me, Queenie.
You have done this. You have done this only to spark conversation, I'm sure.
Pardon?
You have done to contrive a great conversation, because how can you put Babylon on your top 5 list? Let me know. Explain yourself.
And I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
You see how people lie. You see how people lie.
Because I messaged you.
Get made, Kojo. When people open their mouths, they lie.
As this film came, I messaged you because I saw you post on Instagram that, you know, you had thoughts around the film which weren't positive, and I told you even then, it's like, the film is good. I had a great time through Babylon. The film's an actual riot, and I love like, I don't know if I love timepieces where they're set in an era, but that film actually made me want to dive into like the 90s, 20s, like the explosion of Hollywood. Like it looked like so much fun, and I love that about it. Yeah. The woman who started to speak.
You said it, not me, right?
All right.
You know, you can have that. You could have Babylon. What I won't let you have is The Menu, because The Menu was good. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't like stellar. Like it wasn't. I wasn't like.
Oh, it was. It absolutely was.
Oh my gosh, no. The Menu was great. Like, oh my gosh, yes. Let me go to the cinema. Let me watch a movie. Oh, that was a good film. It wasn't like, wow, blow my mind. That was insane.
I tell you what, I feel that way around Triangle of Sadness. I think in a way that you feel around The Menu. I think we have the opposite takes on, because Triangle of Sadness, when I saw it, I was like, I'm glad I didn't go to the cinema to see this. Like, this was fine for me. It was fine, and it had a couple like really good moments. But on the whole, I was like, it was very predictable, number one. But it was really well acted, which kind of saved it for me. But I left it like, yeah, okay, cool, good film. But The Menu, I left that one like, yes, this is cinema.
Oh, okay. Okay. You know, I do see the parallels of what you're saying. Yeah. And like, I almost appreciate the fact that they are both kind of allegoric in that sense.
Yeah, both talking about class as well, class and excess. You know? Yeah.
So I do like that, and maybe that's another little video essay in itself.
True.
You can also have that.
Okay.
I mean, you can have it anyway.
what the tone I wanna, at least the movie I do wanna like just finish on for this section is Aftersun. I don't know if you've seen Aftersun.
I've seen Aftersun.
I thought Aftersun was like one of the most beautiful films I've seen. Like it's such a deep film, and not in a way you realize initially. I think it's a film which kind of, at least for me, gets tied together perfectly at the end on
Yeah.
when you like when it anyway where the events of the film suddenly kind of become recontextualized in a different way, where you're like, oh, oh, and then you're left with that tone of oh moving forward. Oh
Yeah.
man, Aftersun really, even just thinking about it now kind of gives me chills. But yeah, it's really, really, really good film.
Yeah. I think the ending for me was insane. The end it made it for me, I think.
Mm,
It
it
was a
would.
brilliant film. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it would.
Cinema Paradiso.
Hmm.
I've seen that. Shout out to you, Martin. Love ya. Um, he was this like cinematographer guy that I worked with when I was on Hollyoaks, and he
Nice.
told me that was his favorite films. I watched it last year, and I was like, it's good. I like it. And I think it kind of encapsulates what you were kind of talking about in terms of Babylon and like
Mm,
what filmmaking is. You know, the kind of, I guess, the depiction of drive of like a director or a cinematographer or whatever it is, that like a filmmaker basically, and the real experiences that they go through and like how they fall in love with film. Like we had a lot of films last year, especially about like um about people falling in love with the art of films. There was
yeah.
Babylon, there was what was the other one? There was the
Bit
Spielberg one.
Spielberg's film. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and there was Empire of Light was the other, it was the one that I watched in January with Michael Ward and Olivia Colman. And like a fair few films basically talking about like people falling in love with film and all of this stuff. And like it was a very interesting time because I remember for a long time I was thinking like, why are there so many films about the same thing right now? Like what's going on? And I
Mm,
guess like maybe it's a bit of a COVID thing of like um wanting us maybe to fall in love with film again, wanting us to fall in love with what it means to go to the cinema, um and like taking a thought and taking ideas that like we would have not necessarily thought of ourselves. So maybe it stemmed from that. Maybe it's just a egotistical um look on life. I don't know.
mhm,
But
mm.
you know, I can't really tell if I liked it or if I didn't like it. I just noticed that there was a lot of it going around.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed. There's also like even Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but I mean that was
That's what.
2019. But
Yeah,
but it's we feel like we're entering this era of just people being nostalgic and reflecting on film like as a medium.
yeah,
Which is I'm enjoying it. I'm
yeah.
enjoying it.
And I think especially when you had a year that was so big off of like something like Everything Everywhere all at once.
Sure.
It's like we're being nostalgic but also pushing film not to its limits because you can't, there's no such thing,
Mm.
but pushing film into a new era
Yeah,
essentially.
agree.
So it'd be really interesting to see, especially now like we're battling with screen time and we're battling with getting people into the theater as opposed to watching films at home. um yeah, it's an interesting time to be in film and to like film and yeah, TV is booming
Yeah,
and film is not. So it's yeah, it's an interesting time for sure.
it is. So anyway, speaking of battles, I'm gonna segue us into talking about a place where another battle is taking place, not
Uh-huh.
on TV, in the
Oh.
kitchen.
I like that. Yes. That's
um,
um before we get into that though,
what's that?
we just want to say that you know, we're talking about The Bear. We're gonna start talking about The Bear in a moment. Um we've just completed season 2 and that's what this episode is about. Um obviously gagging for season 3 at this point, but like
Please.
we're currently in the midst of, I say we, but like writers and actors in America are currently in the midst of like a massive strike. And I guess we just want to like shine a light on that. I'm kind of mourning season 3. I know it will probably take a little bit longer to be made, and like some of our favorite shows, for example, will probably take a little bit longer, but like
Mm.
by all means, because of the time that we're in, I guess we stand by you writers and actors. And yeah, just wanted to get that out there.
I'm glad you did. I think yeah, it's important. A lot of people's jobs are really on the line, and it's not so much even the big actors and you know like the huge writers, but it's people who are just trying to get into the industry. And yeah, with streaming as it is now, like the model is just not sustainable for people. You know, we're in a cost of living crisis, like
Like,
around the world. Like you can't, you know, you need to eat. So
exactly. And more than that, you need to be like recognized, you know, you need to yeah, yeah. You need to be recognized for your work and acknowledged for it and
mm,
celebrated. But yeah.
yeah.
The bear.
The bear. Cool. So the way we're going to tackle this, we're going to quickly talk about our general thoughts overall, like kind of thoughts on the latest season. Non-spoilers. So if you haven't seen it, just want to get like just a brief, download of information about whether you should check it out or not. Spoiler alert: you absolutely should.
Like
Um,
there's no reason why you shouldn't, essentially.
but we'll talk kind of generally around it very briefly, and then we're going to talk about spoilers as well. So breaking down the characters, maybe relevant themes, just how we felt about the season in a bit more depth. So yeah, but again, timestamps below if you just want to hear the non-spoiler overall chat. This is it. So again, going back to what I just said, watch it. Let's just start off right there. Watch it. Um, Season 2 of The Bear is really, really good. Like really good.
Like
Um,
insanely good. It's insane how every episode got better.
exactly.
Like I couldn't believe it. When we got to episode 4, I was like, that's a really good episode. Episode 5, I said, okay, I see what you've done there. Episode 6, I said, stop. That's enough. Episode 7, I said, please stop. It's too much. Episode it was getting better and better and better. And like, oh man, when I finished, I had a massive smile on my face, but I was also like what's gonna happen? I need to know what happens
Need
next.
season 3. Yeah, it is. To take from the top, so the bear obviously is following a group of people as they run a restaurant in Chicago, focusing largely on Carmen, who is the greatest chef in the world, as many people know, the greatest chef in the world. And as he takes over his brother's restaurant, and there's a whole cast of characters in there who we meet in season 1, who are now in the process of building this restaurant, trying to make it a cultural juggernaut, and dealing with all the trials and tribulations that come with running a restaurant in today's day and age, and also a lot of the personal troubles that can kind of bleed into who you are as a person and how that then impacts who you are as a chef in the kitchen with this chosen family, because I think that's what the show kind of revolves around. It's the idea of
Yeah.
family chosen and when you're born into. So that's the bear in a nutshell. Um, I want to get into spoilers. I don't know if there's anything else more to say without going to spoilers. Anything you want to add?
No, no. Let's jump straight in.
All
I'm
right,
ready.
cool. So this is your warning. Now we're heading to spoiler territory. So yeah, again, go check out the show. Couldn't recommend it enough. Cool. All right. Boom, 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 boom. Carmen. Can we start with Carmen and
We can start with
then
Carmen.
work our way from there?
Yeah, yeah. Carmen, this season, he's always been quite an anxious guy, quite a,
Yeah.
anyway, anxious guy. Love him, right? And I'm so glad that we got to see that one episode in episode 6 where he's pretty much quiet for the whole episode. We see him a lot when he's in the kitchen. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's rarely ever out of his element. We rarely ever see him out of his
Yeah.
element.
Not in the kitchen.
And so yeah, exactly. So when we see him at his mother's house in his mother's kitchen, kind of out of place, it's debilitating for everyone. You know what I mean? Especially because he's just come from Copenhagen and like all of this. So, and I think also there are some similarities between Carmen and his mum that he doesn't necessarily realize as well. Like, his mother, so a little bit of a backstory, essentially like episode 6 revolves around like his mother who's making like this delicious meal for them on Christmas Eve, and we see her break down, then come back up and break down again. I think they're trying to relay the fact that she maybe has depression, maybe a bit of alcoholism in there, and
Borderline personality disorders, like tons of
yeah,
stuff that could be at play. Yeah.
exactly. exactly. And so we see her kind of say like, oh, like nobody appreciates me and nobody does beautiful things for me, but I do beautiful things for everyone else. And you like, while Kami can see that, he can't necessarily see that like maybe he does it to himself as well. The same way his mum will like push people away when she needs them the most.
Mm.
She'll push people out of the kitchen, she'll push people away, she'll say, no, leave me alone, I'm fine by myself. It's exactly what Carmen does.
Yeah.
And then when they're actually in that space of solitude, it's a break, like they completely break down, and it's like, okay, so instead of pushing people away, like actually keep people close to you. So that was very interesting, and I'm glad we got that episode to really be able to contextualize Kami in that sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, what a character. Love him.
I'm glad you started off speaking about Carmen by touching upon Donna, because I think you can't. I think it's hard to understand Kami in terms of the anxieties he has and the way he kind of pushes away good things to focus solely on, you know, the kitchen, being a chef. And it's until you really meet his mother and you're like, oh, and you meet his wider family, you see how they kind of navigate existing with each other. And it's tough. I went back to season 1 earlier, just kind of see if I can, I don't know, again, I just want to watch the show, but see if I can kind of gain any new insights. And it's interesting because there's a moment where Carmen's talking about Donna with I think it's Richie or someone, or Pete or someone, like Donna gets mentioned, and then the camera does a close-up of Kami's hands, and he's kind of like clicking this thing as he's like, did she go full psychotic? They're like, yeah, and then he has like a nervous tick around him. And then now seeing how he interacts with his mom, how he really wants to be there for his mom, but he just can't. He doesn't know how to really navigate that. So Donna pushes people away that, you know, that love her. We see it later on in the season where she comes to the restaurant's opening, and she can't do it. They want her to be there so bad, and she just can't do it. There's so much guilt around her and anxiety around her. That she pushes them away, and you see Carmen at the end of the season pushing Claire away. He's like, I don't deserve to have good things. And he has this like moment where he realizes, to him anyways, the reason why I'm locked in the freezer right now, the reason why, so like this opening night, even it's just a family and friends in a while, this didn't go as well as he wanted it to, is because he was in love. It's because he was having something good happen to him outside of the kitchen. And if he wants to be good at this thing, he can't have something good outside. And I was kind of thinking about different themes each of the characters had around, I think they represent different perspectives on being a chef, like different reasons why you become a chef, different reasons why you're in the kitchen. And for me, Carmen is salvation. I think Carmen seeks salvation and just through being a chef. It's kind of like his church. It's like it's the thing which, you know, gives him the thing to do. Without that, he's like, I don't want to do anything else. Like I can't do anything else. But yeah.
Sorry to go off. I was watching a video like a little earlier about the bear, and I've forgotten the name of the YouTuber now. So if I like, I'll go and find it and put it in the link I'll put it as a link in the description. But she was basically like, she said a very similar thing to you in the sense of he's even trapped when he's trapped in the fridge and they're trying to get him out. It's like he's about to leave the cave after 3 days. Like, do you know what I mean? Like as if he's Jesus almost. Like he's about to leave the cave after 3 days. Do you know what I mean? Like, and you know, he's had that kind of time to ruminate and think, and he's come to this conclusion now that like he doesn't deserve things that are good, or at least this is the conclusion I think he's come to, considering now Claire Bear has left him. You know, part of me hopes that he goes back for Claire, but then at the same time, I didn't want Claire there. I'm gonna be honest. I didn't want Claire there.
Oh, you're a hater.
I don't hate her. I don't hate her. I thought she was great.
However,
I just knew that he was then gonna be like, oh, I can't have both. I can only have one. And do you know what I mean? I knew that was where it was going, and I really didn't want it to go there. But what I did like about Claire, and I'll say this, is that she was not the woman who was like, it's me or it's the kitchen.
Yes,
like she
exactly.
was very understanding, very supportive, and equally he was of her. And like it was a great, healthy, functional relationship.
It really was.
So while at the start I was like, this chick gotta go. Now I'm like, actually go back to her quickly, run,
Yeah.
because she can help you in ways that Sydney can't, or in ways that your mother can't, or in the ways that that Sydney can't. Do you know what I mean? So
Sugar.
sugar
Yeah.
can't. So yeah,
No.
I really like in season 3 that they are able to reconcile, because she was really good for him.
Yeah, agreed. I think it goes to show how it was a good and healthy relationship. It's just Carmen would almost like he can only focus on one thing at one time, really, where it's like
Yeah,
focusing on Claire or focusing on the kitchen.
yeah,
He can't do both of those things. He hasn't figured out how to do both of those things well. So I think maybe that's what season 3 might be about, is figuring out what that balance is for him to be healthy. I don't see the
yeah.
show going on more than 4 seasons. I kind of hope it doesn't.
I was gonna say the exact same thing, because
Yeah.
the way this show has been written, I'm so sorry. This is some of the best writing in TV ever. Like, period. So the fact that all of our questions are answered in like episode 6, for example. Like, we find
Yeah.
out why sugar's sugar. We find out why they're so obsessed with bears. Like, we get it, right? The writing is impeccable, and I always say that, like, so for example, a show like Insecure, we've
Mm.
spoken before about like how even Issa Rae knew that it wasn't going to go beyond a certain amount of seasons, because otherwise you start to lose the story,
Yeah.
right? And I always say the best stories are the ones that know how they're going to end. And
Yeah.
I think you can, I don't know what the ending is, but you can tell that they're working up towards an ending,
Yeah.
basically. They're not, this isn't just a show that, that they're just going to see like how much they can get and where they can go and blah, blah, blah. No, no, no. They've told us from season 1, this is the situation. Season 2, we're prepping you now, because season 3 is gonna go crazy. Season
Mm.
4, we're gonna salve it, and we're
Yeah.
gonna put some balm over it. You feel me?
Mm.
Because season 3 is gonna go crazy. Like, if we thought season 2 was crazy, season 3 I think is gonna go wild.
Yeah.
Because this was just the layup basically. For
Yeah.
season 3, and season 4 will be the balm, and then I think it'll be done after that.
Yeah,
Like you.
and I think with season 3, the main storyline I can see from that is probably going to be the chasing of the Michelin star, which obviously Sydney wants so badly. And Sydney as a character, I think, represents ambition. Out of all the chefs, I think ambition is Sydney's thing.
Yeah.
Um, she's the one who has the dream of getting a Michelin star, and Kami's even like a bit skeptical. He's like, you can tell he doesn't really care either way. That's not what he's done. He's done the whole Michelin star kind of chasing, working at the restaurant.
Yeah.
That's not what he's about. But Sydney wants that, like, to be almost like to be recognized. And there's another character like that for me, which is Tina. We'll get back to Tina in a second. But that sense
Yeah.
of, I need this thing because I'm so good at my job, and then this will make it all worth it. This is the thing. She speaks back to her dad about that. Like, this is the thing. If this isn't the thing,
Yeah.
then she doesn't know what's going to happen
Exactly.
to her. Sydney, I adore. I think Sydney is such a great character. I loved
Yeah.
I didn't love it at first, but then the more and more I thought about it, in the montage scene where she's kind of going from restaurant to restaurant, trying new foods, expanding the palette. Because I didn't think season 1 covered Chicago enough. A lot of people were like, who I guess were from Chicago, were like, yeah, this kind of captures the city. And I didn't really feel that, but this season I felt it a lot more, with her going to different restaurants, different foods, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, adore Sydney. I don't want, before I hand it over to you, I'm just going to say, I don't like this narrative where people are shipping Sydney and Kami. I don't like team romantic, putting them together. Like, we need them to kiss. I'm like, no. I love
So
their friendship. I think they
yeah.
bounce off each other platonically really well. And I would just like it to stay as an
Yeah.
actual friendship, and not this
Yeah.
like pseudo romance that people are kind of portraying and like projecting onto it. But yeah, anyway, that's a by the by point.
100%. So for me and Sydney, like, I see a lot of myself in Sydney.
Mhm.
Like, even the faults, you know what I mean? Like, and I feel like, yeah, it's one of those things where sometimes your ambition for something, it can make you disillusion. Is that the right word I'm thinking of?
Mhm.
Make you um like, whereas I think Kami's need to be in the kitchen is more out of like, I need to feel anxious. If I don't feel anxious, then like
Yeah,
I'm living,
good point.
right? Because I remember in like season 1, he starts to talk about like, he had cuts in his hands and he's got garlic and onions in his cuts, and it makes him feel something, right? For Sydney, it feels a lot more personal than that. Like,
Mm.
it feels like I have something to prove, and it's like, okay, but who are you proving it to? Because it's not your dad, because your dad he loves you, babe. Do you know what I mean? Who are you proving it to? Is it, and Kami doesn't really care, because Kami can see you for who you are, babe. So who is this for? Do you know what I mean? And she can say it's for herself, and that's fine, but like, you can't get that, you can't help but think that there's something else there that is driving. It's not just herself for herself. It feels like it's an outside force.
Mm.
That's how it feels like for me. But maybe I'm reading a bit too into it, because it's I feel very like connected
No.
to Sydney in a strange way.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of the shipping of Kami and Sydney, stop it. Stop it. We don't want it.
Yes.
Don't want it. I promise you we don't. Do I even want her with pastry guy?
Marcus.
What's his name? Marcus? I don't know. I don't know. But I will say, when he was like, do you want to maybe grab some food later? She was like,
Don't tell me I got you.
she was like, to be fair, when you know, in episode 4, like when Marcus is in Copenhagen, we'll get to that. But and you know, Sydney's on the phone, he's like pouring her heart out, she's frozen. And she's like, I'm just joking. I was like, girl, you know he likes you. Stop playing with him.
Yeah.
If they're together, it's because I want Marcus to be happy. It's not because I necessarily want Sydney with him. But I think where the ambition comes in there is that, like, she's so ambitious, she can't even see that this
Yeah.
is what it is. Do you know what I mean? And again, I maybe relate to that as well, in the sense of like, just being so focused on something that, like, so where Kami is easily distracted, I guess, in that sense, Sydney is so focused on something that like
Yes.
she can't be. Do you know what I mean? Like, not even a little bit. Yeah, I guess they use that hyper focus in like 2 different ways. But that's maybe why they get on so well.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then also, it was quite like, I also related to Sydney this season, because like when you're going out and you're doing the work, do you know what I mean? You're doing stuff, and the other person's like, oh my gosh, no, oh my gosh, no, like, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, babe, I just need you to make a decision for me. Okay, like, I need you to make the decision. We're working together. And I think it was when her dad was like, no, in fact, there was I think there was one episode, maybe it was episode 3, and Sydney kept getting reminded of, you need to know who you're getting into business with. Like,
Yeah, it was the montage episode.
You need to, like, this is trust. Do you trust him? Do you trust him? I think she was asked that 3 times. Almost like Peter, do you love me, from the Bible, right? Like, Peter, do you love me? No, Peter, do you love me? Yeah. Crazy. But Sydney, shout out to you, because she pulled it out of the bag. Not that I ever doubted her.
Yeah.
But she pulled it out of the bag. She, you know, she pulled the team together. She promoted Tina. Can we speak about Tina?
Sure. Tina, in terms of the theme, similar to Sydney, is very much ambition. Not ambition in the same sense, but Tina for me was about respect. And that's kind of a culmination of a character from season 1. Because when Sydney and Kami come into this place, start telling her, who again is an older woman who's been in the industry for longer than probably Carmen and Sydney. She keeps making references to being in the kitchen since before Sydney was born even.
Yeah.
I think now you have these young people come in and tell you that the way you've been doing things was wrong, that the way you've been doing things isn't the way you should be doing them. There's something in there which probably hits like super close to her heart, which is being told, you know, she's not enough, or she's not of value. And I think season 2, seeing how she's in such a good place with Sydney, and then Sydney then promotes her to being the sous chef, and then she gets to go and to culinary school, and it's never about, you know, your skills aren't good, or, you know, you're not good enough, or we don't value who you are. But it's like, we see so much potential in you that we want to support it and invest in it and keep pushing you forward. And like the smile that Tina has when Sydney offers her the job, and the hug and the embrace. Tina, man, when I rewatched season 1, it's so difficult to watch Tina because she's such an op. She's a real nuisance.
Gosh.
So seeing her character kind of come full circle, and just, yeah, love it.
It's so beautiful. And like, even her then picking up Ebra.
Yeah.
Her picking up Ebra, so that I get, like, that whole bit there in terms of you know, both of them being a little bit older, both of them having worked at the beef joint for years and years and years, being told that everything that they've been doing for the past 30 odd years has been wrong, and actually now they need to go back to school to relearn how to do stuff. Tina handled it with poise and grace like a princess, okay? And Ebra, not so much. And you know, I quite understand why. And I did feel really badly for him, and I feel like that would have been a really, really lovely thing to have explored for him.
Yeah, a
Maybe
bit
it's
more.
not time yet. And hopefully in season 3 we get like a little background story for both him and Tina. Obviously there's only so much you can do in like 40-minute slots of 10
A lot of the
episodes.
episodes like half an hour at max. Like,
Exactly. So yeah, there's only so much you can do. I remember like every episode would end, I'm just like, you've ended already?
yeah,
Like, what's going on? But yeah, so it was really nice then to see Tina recognize that her comrade is able, basically.
yeah,
And she was the only person to really notice it as well, because she comes in, she's like, oh, have you seen Ebra? And everyone's like, nah. So, or have you heard from Ebra? And everyone's like, nah. So that was nice. And then, you know, they're calling each other out a bit, and then he comes back into the fold. And I just thought that was so beautiful. And it would be Tina as well, actually, now that I think about it, because she's the sous chef. Like,
yeah,
like, so she was doing her job, but also she was being a really good friend in my eyes. And when you see Tina at work in episode 10, oh my, like, she was made for that. Have you washed the dishes, chef? Where are the forks, chef? I'm like, yes, stand up. love her.
Ibra's a tough one, like I said, to figure out theme wise. I just had Peace. I think he's very much like he knows what he knows. Even in season 1, when Kwami's like, "This is how we cut it," and he's like, "Oh no," like he doesn't. He just knows what he knows, wants to stick to that. It's really about Peace. He's even older than Tina, you can tell. So he's like at that point of the skills I have are the skills I have. I don't want to wear a uniform. He's like, I don't want to wear a uniform. I'm scared of that.
Yeah.
Anyway, Ibra was great.
And on the uniform thing as well, because wasn't he like a refugee or something?
I was wondering if that was a connection to maybe some trauma around that, about the idea of being in uniform. Or anyway,
maybe.
Okay, 2 more characters to talk about. Richie and Marcus. How do you which Marcus
first.
Cool.
Yeah, because
Marcus,
Richie,
you want to talk about episode 4? I can tell.
Yeah.
Marcus, passion. Marcus is about passion, like genuine passion, loving what you do. Everyone loves what they do in the kitchen, but Marcus is like the passion of making a dish, learning. Season 1, his like the culmination of his story kind of revolves around him making this amazing donut, and then he slows down. He loses focus on everything else, kind of like Kami, where he's just focusing on this, making this perfect dish, and he fucks up everything. Season 2, that passion sees him kind of get flown to Copenhagen to be, coach or taught by Will Porter's character. I know. And again, it's about passion. It's about, again, the love of the craft. And that's all Marcus is about. It's like the love of doing this thing. Just not because I want to be recognized, or not because, this is saving me, but because I just love doing it. And anyway, what are your thoughts on Marcus?
Marcus, like you said, very, very similar to Kami. And I think when you start to connect the dots, later in the season, or maybe you don't connect the dots, I don't know, but he's done the same thing that Kami did, right? He's living the same life that Kami did, staying in the boat, and they drop like little nuggets here and there throughout the season, right? To let us know that he's literally on Kami's journey. He's so focused and so passionate about the work that he does, so much so that he doesn't quite see his phone blowing up to say that, because we start off the season, the first season is Marcus with his mother in bed because his mum is like ill. It's giving last days kind of thing. And so I guess all of his passion up until then was for his mother and making sure that she's okay. Now he's found this like love of cooking, and he's been flown out to Copenhagen, and he feels a kind of guilt about that, rightly so. But Sydney then speaks him out of it and says, you know what, you deserve this. Like, this is something that like make time for yourself and blah blah blah. And so when he's then given that green light to really take that time for himself, he almost doubles down maybe, and then maybe loses sight of his mother. Maybe it's also unfair to say that, because when you're working, you're not necessarily like looking, especially when you're in an environment like a kitchen, you're not necessarily on the phone, right? So
it's hyper focus. It's a lot of hyper focus on Marcus' experiences, and I think let's talk about episode 4 briefly, because like as part of it, because I think you can't really talk about Marcus without talking about episode 4, Honeydew. The only episode directed by Rami Youssef of the show, and I think Honeydew is a really special episode because you see just cinematography alone, like it. The Bear is shot using a lot of close-ups. Everything is kind of close-ups of people, close-ups of hands, close-ups of process. Episode 4 of The Bear of season 2, directed by Rami, wide shots galore. It's Marcus in empty space. It's Marcus with freedom around him. It's like you're no longer enclosed by the kitchen. You're free to experiment. You're free to explore. And I learned, so Christopher Storer, the creator of The Bear, who was also an executive producer on Rami's show, Rami, who
brilliant show, by the way.
Brilliant show, according to Queen. You haven't seen it yet. But scheduling issues made it so that Christopher couldn't film in Copenhagen. So this is the only time if they've got a guest co-director to step in, because there's 2 directors of The Bear typically, Christopher Storer and the other creator. I think her name was Joanna. And Rami was told not to watch like the previous episodes that they filmed of season 2. Just go to Copenhagen and do your thing. Capture the episode how you want to capture the episode. And I find it so interesting that he chose to focus on space and freedom and quiet moments. And Marcus kind of, in some ways, being a fish out of water. But he referenced, like, again, you have a big black man going to Copenhagen, which is like, you know, the racial demographics that it has. You expect a shoe to drop. So there's a moment where obviously he saves that guy from who's trapped underneath the bicycle, and you're waiting for something weird to happen, and nothing happens. He just hugs him, and Marcus embraces him as well, and it's like a really sweet and tender moment. Great. Nothing else to say.
So good. I had no idea that that Chris had asked Rami not to watch any of the opposite episodes, but that is insane because of how differently it's shot. Like you said, I loved Will Poulter in it. He might be the love of my life, who knows, but so good. And then you know, I'm gonna jump now to Richie's episode, because then you see a picture of Will's character Luca and Kami, and you're like, oh, he was referring to Kami as like being the best person that he's ever worked with, essentially, in his storytelling to Marcus, because he's saying to Marcus basically like, oh, you know, I was working with someone and he was really great, and I realized I wasn't the best, but you know what, I found joy in like, what did he say? He said he essentially found joy in like not being the best, in that sense, and like he found joy in
it freed him
then to like learn more and do more and all of this stuff. And so I think that obviously must have resonated with like Marcus' character, and everyone is always talking about every minute counts. But we can get to that.
Every second counts.
Every second counts. Sorry. Richie, episode 7. Let's go. Talk to me.
Richie's theme, purpose. Richie from season 1, season 2 has been a man without purpose. He's a man who was running this restaurant with his best friend who owned it. And Richie's purpose at the time was to be the relationship guy, to be the guy who was kind of mixing with people who knew everyone in the area around Chicago, who can get things done. And he kind of lost that. Kami came in here, and Kami knows his purpose. Sydney knows her purpose. Richie was a man without purpose. So I think season 2 started, and you can see he'd done some of the work from season 1. He wasn't as like hyper aggressive and everything else, but he was still just a nuisance and annoying. And he makes reference to the fact that like he thinks they're gonna drop him. They're gonna realize how useless he is and dump him. Get sent to this again best restaurant in the city, Forks, which he thinks is a punishment, just has to clean forks. But then he begins to see how you run a high-class restaurant with passion. I guess maybe like me, and I guess most people have this impression that these places are really cold and stale and super methodological, and that's not Richie's style. But he sees like, oh, I can bring my passion to this space and make it work to,
Yeah.
you know, a phenomenal level. And I like how Richie brings that back when it's so simple. He's like, I wear suits now. And
I wear
everyone's like,
suits.
oh, cool, you're looking good. It's like, yeah, I wear suits now. And he just wears suits now. And he
Yeah.
looks so good. He mingles with the crowd so well. I loved Richie's arc in this so much because I was rooting for him. And then when
Oh,
it finally came together, and I think he's going back to season 6, and you see how he's in such a good place in his relationship, and you know that doesn't continue to the present day. You see how he's struggling with work and job and trying to make it and be there, be a good father to his daughter, and how
yeah.
he doesn't have that in the present day. That now coming full circle. I'm so glad episode 6 was so good. I'm so glad you kind of see it come full circle where he finally figures out what his purpose is and how he
Yeah.
can be the best Richie for this restaurant. It's great.
Yeah. Honestly, you almost know instantaneously who the episode is about, right? So episode 6 comes on, Richie wakes up, he's got an alarm clock. I think this episode was all about the little details, right? It was about repetition and noticing the details. And so at the start, he's kind of waking up like after his alarm, and he's turning off his alarm, and then over time you see that he actually wakes up before his alarm, and you're like, ah, like when I think sometimes when we look at jobs like cleaning forks or whatever, like he didn't think it was like necessarily beneath him, but he just thought he was behind in life, because that was what he says to the guy who was teaching him. I've forgotten his name. But the head waiter guy basically, and then the head waiter is like, listen, like, we are serving people, this is a service, you know, let's practice that. And I think when the penny dropped for Richie, and he says, oh, I respect that, like, he's like, oh, I respect that. And so when he starts to realize that, oh, actually, like, people want to do this, like, people aren't just waiters because they want to get somewhere, like, people are waiters because they want to be waiters, and they do it flipping well, right? So and yeah, like you said, when he realizes that he can bring himself into quite a stale and pale environment, that's an in, right? He starts to win people over. The people that were quite stoic at the start are now like, yeah, you go, Richie, and like giving him a high five and all this stuff. And then you see that moment for him where he's like, oh, have you got any jobs going here? As if to say, like bun the guys at the bear, like, no, I don't even think it was that really. I think it was more like, they don't want me anyway, so I might as well stay here because you guys want me here. But I think he'd just been looking at it wrong. Like,
he thinks it's a punishment, right? He speaks Kami, he's like, I know you sent me here to punish me. Kami's even confused, like, what are you talking about, cousin?
Yeah. So I think he definitely been looking at the whole thing in a wrong way. And I think the whole, like, the episodes 1 to 6, or episodes 1 to 5 really, were more Richie trying to be like a square peg in a circle hole, right? Like, dude was not fitting. He thought he was a handyman. You are not a handyman, sir. You are breaking this building, okay? Like, you don't know anything, dude. You're not, you cannot fix mold. You cannot fix the plumbing. You cannot paint. Like,
that's not your
find
purpose.
something you can do. Do you know what I mean? Like, make yourself useful instead of being destructive. And so when he realizes, actually, there's respect in service, and actually there's respect in bringing your full self to the table, but also knowing when to hang back. There's respect in knowing when to say sorry and know when to apologize. You know, there's like, and when he starts to learn that over time by just simply polishing forks, and after speaking to Olivia Colman's character as well, which was quite a pivotal point as well, because at that point I was thinking, bro, like, dude's gonna lose it at some point. Like, I was so sure he was gonna have a massive blow up at this place, at this like well-to-do place, and completely lose it. And just at that moment where you think it's going to happen, he bumps into Olivia Colman's character and is completely tranquilized and calmed down. They have a lot of similarities in the sense that they were both raised by like by servicemen, as in like army servicemen, and you know, completely slowed down and brought back to earth. And then, you know, then it starts to resonate with him a bit more. So then he comes back into the bear and is this new person. He's a team player, okay? He is majestic. And I really hope that things don't break him in the next season. Although I'm sure it will because it's the bear and
Yeah.
it has to go that way. But I'm so proud of Richie and his character arc. I think by the end of season 1, you were kind of loving him, and then the start of season 2 comes and you're like, bro, like I thought we'd gotten over this. I thought we'd gotten over this.
Exactly.
But yeah, he needed a complete lifestyle change. He needed to be brought back down to earth and humbled, I think, and that's what happened. So proud of him.
And he was all the better for it. I think, I haven't got much to add. I think you captured it perfectly. Really, really proud of him. Excited to see where he goes in season 3. There's so much more I want to talk about this show, but we kind of have to bring it to an end just for time. But boy, The Bear season 2, so good. Highly recommended. I mean, at this point, if you've seen this film, imagine you've already seen the show, and we're kind of preaching to the choir. But this was really, really good talking about the characters in the show with you, Queenie.
As always, phenomenal show, guys. Honestly, if you haven't seen it, you have to watch it. I watched it recently on Disney Plus. It came out December.
Yes.
It came out July 19th on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
So if you have Disney Plus, please check it out. It's not like we're getting paid for it, you feel me? But like, if you want to
run up the stream, support it.
If you want to, then like go ahead and do that. But yeah, thank you so much for listening, guys, and we'll speak to you next time.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.